Lieutenant General Lengel, in 2013, an estimated 26 pure metric tons of heroin were produced in Mexico. Most of that came into the United States directly across the southwestern border. I think the chair can probably attest to that as well. And tragically, in that same year, over 8,000 people died in the U.S. due to heroin overdose. Unfortunately, my home state of New Mexico had the second highest rate of drug overdose deaths in the country that year. New Mexico shares a 179-mile border with Mexico, and yet it is only provided enough funding for 5 National Guard personnel in the budget request to fight this epidemic due to what I would call a failed resourcing model. Do you think that the National Guard is prioritizing its counter-drug resources effectively? And if confirmed, will you take a hard look at the resource allocations nationwide, particularly those along the southwest border, and consider adjustments to that model so that we can stop these drugs before they actually enter the country?
Senator, I can tell you that the counter-drug funding is dispersed through the threat-based resource model. I would tell you I'm 100% sure it's probably not 100% right, but I think it is a process agreed upon by all of the 54 states, territories, and the District of Columbia, all of which I think also have a requirement for counter-drug funding. I can tell you that if confirmed, I will look at this system and look at this process and make my own personal determination as to whether or not it's the absolute best system that we have.
I would just urge you to do that. I think if you look at the hard numbers for all of the states, the reality is if you can stop that influx before it gets to the states, it's much easier to track it down once it's in the interior of the United States. And I have real heartburn over the fact that while we're dedicating enormous resources to the border in New Mexico, we are not even in the top half, and yet we have 179 miles of border. That is a very difficult thing to justify, I think.